I forgot to thank, and I think did Mark leave? Yeah. Wildlife Services provides funds for some of this, don't they? They provide like $50,000 that we use for these diseases and stuff for the
That they provide?
avian flu or
I
something.
don't. Oh. Yeah, APHIS. Yeah, not Mark's shop, but
Yeah.
part of their agency
Yeah,
does
their
provide
agency
some funding
provides
for
some
the
funds,
veterinary.
so we should thank them
Yeah.
for, some of the funds that we get here, but it's still not enough.
And what we've now done is we're moving Perry's salary over into a PR contract. So, because the avian influenza money is going away pretty much, and the CWD dollars. There'll be some, but not enough to cover a position.
Okay. But it still helps.
Yes.
Okay, let's go into gifts, grants, and donations. Deputy Director Patrick Case.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to provide a report to you of gifts and donations received since the start of this fiscal year 10. We received a $75,000 cash donation from the Wildlife Record Book Committee for the I-93 overpass. That is the largest single gift that we received. We have also received donations through the Hunt app system, for multiple individuals. We received $37.50 for the predator management and $560.50 for Operation Game Thief. We also received a non-cash donation from Polaris Industries for a Polaris Genesis personal watercraft valued at $8,500. Those are all the donations that we received thus far year to date, at least that we have record of in fiscal services. We did also recently process a work program at the Interim Finance Committee that was approved earlier this week on Monday. It allows us to accept further gifts and donations for the game division for big game projects. These monies haven't been received yet, but they have been pledged. We have verbal commitments totaling up to $192,800 for capture, transplant, and monitoring programs. The donors, Western Lithium and Western Energy Development Corp., pledged $30,000. Wild Sheep Foundation, Minnesota, Wisconsin, pledged $5,000. Barrick Bald Mountain pledged $25,000. The Midas chapter of NBU pledged $20,000. The Truckee Donner Land Trust pledged $37,800. The Wildlife and Habitat Improvement of Nevada pledged $5,000. Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, $5,000. And the Reno chapter of NBU up to $65,000. And Mike Cox was the person who did all the work in putting these together. If you have specific questions on those, he may be able to help answer.
I had a couple, I guess they're from last year, but in your newsletter, in your, both of them, you said, excuse me, for the helicopter repair, Nevada Bighorns contributed $80,000, and the Heritage Fund contributed $80,000, I think.
That is true. I don't know how I missed that.
And
staff didn't list that, but absolutely, that was
Last fiscal.
was that last
Yes.
fiscal year? Oh, that was last
in there. That's
fiscal
what I
year.
said. I did
Last
say
fiscal year.
I did say it was in the previous year, but
Okay.
one of the things I have is recognizing these. And now I had a flyer go around where Nevada Bighorns, if anyone's here, we got somebody here. They sent a deal out to all the sportsmen's group, or I know we got one. They were asking donations for the helicopter. Is there anybody else, any donors yet that put into that $80,000 we should recognize here?
Not that I'm aware of.
So you didn't get anybody to donate but MBU on that, huh? just come on up and I can't hear you. What we want to do is we want to, and anybody that participated in 80,000 should be recognized for it.
Dennis Wilson, Nevada Bighorns Unlimited. Yeah, certainly Nevada Bighorns Unlimited contributed a significant amount of that 80,000, but Mel reminded me so did the Coalition for Nevada's Wildlife. So those are the two groups that contributed to that 80,000
Okay.
sum.
Thank you. And
You're
I want to thank all the organizations that did that. This is great. And in fact, I would even, and I have the list of the interim finance that, that donated. And I think that I'd like to see it. I don't know if you guys want to do it, but there's a lot of groups that produce certificates, the awards. You can make them, you can print them on your computer and just print them and just give award to these groups that do it and publicly recognize them, because we need them, especially now. We need them for this. We're $65,000, and this would be great if we could recognize somebody that wants to do it. And I don't know if the commission or it'd be the department, but I guess we'd instigate it if we want to give them a little piece of paper. I know when I served on the record book, the Waterfowl Association would send one out to us, they do the duck stamp judging. And, and they'd send a real nice with a canvas back on it. It was really nice. And I think people appreciate it, because I know this commission, I do, and I know this commission appreciates these contributions. And you can never get too much of that. And I don't know, it's just something if we wanted to do that. But I think it's very important, these people step up to the plate for wildlife. I think it's very significant, and that's my feeling on it. I did recognize them today, and I'd like to do it, and anyone else that wants to donate, we're going to recognize them, and if we want to give them something, certificate, I'm all for it, but it's up to you guys. Commissioner Capurro had his hand up first.
Yeah, Patrick, one of the donors that you read off was one of the mining companies, is that right?
Yes, Barrick, Bald Mountain.
Have other mining companies, because they really have a stake too in some of this, I would think, have we approached any of those mining companies besides Barrick to see if they'd be willing to assist in that?
Not on a routine basis. We can look into that. When we had the sage grouse issue, when we were putting together all the data for the Fish and Wildlife Service, the mining association came up with $40,000, and we've been using that. I know we're almost spent down there, but they helped hire somebody to do the work for Sean while he was on detail doing this other thing. So we've been kind of depending on the project and their interest and how it would affect them.
I think the point is that it always seems like the burden falls on the same groups and that, and perhaps there are others out there and businesses that are out there that might, like the idea of being able to be recognized for their charitable works and that, for eleemosynary, whatever you want to call it. But that's why I mentioned the mining companies. There may be others that we could take a look at. But the money that came from the wildlife record book, that was specifically for the over the highway bypass thing, wasn't it?
Yes,
bridge?
that's my understanding, yes.
Has that been built yet, or is it?
Yes.
Already has?
It's been built, they just didn't finish it, and part of it was for the fencing that we took out of the contract to save money, and I think we were going to use that as part of the fencing, but it didn't quite get finished, but it will be. But
Yeah, we ended up, the fencing went first because they weren't ready with the overpass,
sure.
but it's been put together, and the deer finally figured it out.
Is that right?
Yeah, it took a while. They stood there on the hill going, which way to go, and they finally figured out how to get around. And we didn't have the traffic accidents we thought we might have by funneling, but things are in pretty good shape now. And the main thing from our perspective is that NDOT's real excited about this. And I think they're really interested in doing more, some underpasses. And that's what was the hard part in the past, trying to get those engineers interested in this. And then there's safety money from the feds that help fund some of this. So bigger and better things to come.
How could we thank these groups like with just a letter or, I think instead of just ignoring this and saying, okay, thank you, I mean, I would like to somehow, and maybe we have some ideas, we had some hands up, but, somehow we should send them a letter or give them a little certificate or something and say thank you, achievement award or something, and maybe they'll do it again next time.
Well, certainly that's something the commission could put together and we could staff. We need to put our heads together what to call it, some kind of a recognition, donation recognition. And then we could certainly keep track of that and send something to them. Sure.
Well, I just, we can talk about it later, but we'll see if we get any ideas. But the other question I had on the 37,800, that was for a joint venture between NDOW and the California Fish and Game in Loyalton, and to monitor the interstate deer herd that summers in California, winters in Nevada. But, and that all goes into your 52 code, but that isn't all for Nevada, is it? Because it was sent to Nevada, but is California going to use some of that funds, or is that all going to be available for Nevada?
Well, the letter indicates it's for both California and Nevada wildlife. I don't know the particulars, and I don't know if Mike's still here. Is he gone?
Okay, I was just...
But the letter indicates it's for both. I don't know the particulars,
Okay,
though.
but we still got to thank them somehow for these people, because that's 190-some thousand is significant when it totals up, and look what NBU's doing.
Yeah.
It's and we should thank them. So who had their hand up here next?
I don't know who was first.
Macbeth.
Thank you, Chairman Lent. Patrick, during the Finance Committee meeting this morning, there was an interesting discussion that wasn't touched on when we discussed the Finance Committee stuff, and it was with respect to a special trust account that you have had experience with and for purposes of donations. And I'm wondering if that, maybe just kind of give an overview of what you said in that meeting with respect to...
Sure. At this point, it's a concept. I mean, all of our budgets are authorized to accept gifts and donations. But before I was employed here, I came from Cultural Affairs, and Cultural Affairs in the Museums Division, they have a series of what are private budgets that were established under the authority of the legislature. It's in NRS. It says that they are private monies, not public monies. It can't be reverted. They get all the interest off investments and all that sort of thing. What it does is it exempts them from IFC, from having to go to the Interim Finance Committee. Currently, under the state rules, if we receive a gift of over $10,000, we have to take a trip to Interim Finance Committee and get their approval of it. That can be problematic if somebody like MBU is trying to help us out with an emergency type of issue. They only meet every 3 months. So the timing of that is sometimes problematic. Sometimes we end up incurring an expenditure and then going to IFC to get reimbursed, and we don't necessarily like to do it that way. And the other thing that they are exempt under statute is the state purchasing rules, so that they can execute a contract, take bids and stuff outside of the normal state purchasing rules. And they do this so that private individuals can make donations to the museum. They can be assured that that money is going to be used for the purpose it was intended to, and they can react quickly. In their case, if somebody has something valuable that they want to donate to the museum, well, if they wait 3 months, they might lose the opportunity to do that. And I think that model could serve us well. And what I have proposed is actually setting up that type of private budget with statutory authority. There's still transparency on that. We still, if we put the budgets together, if we want budget changes, we still have to submit that to the budget office for review. There's no delay in that. It's kind of a pro forma review, but they know what's going into that. And in statute, there are requirements to report to the IFC on those accounts and what's in them and how they're being used. And they actually, in their case, they actually use some of those funds to actually fund state positions. which I would not recommend doing, because the more you use those funds to fund regular state operations, the more risk there is that they'll force you to use those funds and not give you state funds. But it could be very useful for us.
Yeah, when I heard the discussion in the Finance Committee, I thought, wow, this is a very flexible mechanism that we could use. It's tailor-made to what this agency needs, and I think that the donors, with some of the concerns we may be looking at with respect to, our legislature looking at our, Heritage Fund, may be resolved. When you have something that's set up along these lines, and we won't have the fears that we're potentially looking at with regard to the Heritage Funds. And so, anyway, I wanted you to share that with the rest of the commission, because I think this is one thing that it almost seems to me like to be a no-brainer. I mean, we should definitely move down this road, and I would hope that everybody on the commission would agree with that.
And I also comment that when Patrick brought this to me, I thought, wow, if we can do this instead of a foundation, which has a whole layer of bureaucracy, that I'd rather not go down that road, frankly, if we don't have to. And this is already in the state system. It seems like a win-win.
That's the only, that was my other question, Mr. Chairman.
Earl?
Because that was set to the side. The other ones were kind of, I don't want to use the term dictated to you, but on that chart you gave us, those were the areas they wanted you to separate the department into. Wasn't that true?
The letter of intent.
Would they go along, I guess my point is, would they go along with the box that you had with relative to this issue we're talking about?
Well, we don't know yet, but I would think so. I mean, there's precedent for it.
There is.
An agency has it, and if it allows us to collect money other than state funds, I don't see how they could complain. And it's not necessarily locked up safe. It still exists in statute. They still could do something. They still could take it. But one of the things that the museum was really good about is when they did get donations, they would write agreements, terms of donation that were very specific. So that, the state would have legal issues if they took that money that was given for something else. And they actually have some endowments where people are given large sums of money and they actually invest it and live off those investments. And
My comment, just to follow up with that, is that if these things are done correctly, and if they are really set up in a trust-type mechanism, I think it would be incredibly difficult for anybody to get to those funds. I mean, I haven't seen the statute, and I don't know all the particulars yet, but anyway, it had some very, very, positive aspects to it, and I think we definitely ought to, take a look at it.
Commissioner Rain?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, did we have a printout of this? I mean, I didn't see a printout you're saying we should get a printout of all these gifts, grants, donations that you had there? If we can maybe get one for...
I don't have a printout. I have a page that has the 192,000 and everything else I scrawled on a piece of paper, but I would be more than happy to provide that.
Okay, so part of the deal is to properly recognize them, it'd be nice to have a list of who we're recognizing, and we go ahead and go through that. And also to allow me to better form, have some questions about, hey, did this money indeed get spent on that project or not? It's a lot easier if I had to print out rather than my few little notes.
Yeah, I will certainly do that in the future. I originally thought I was going to do this once a year, but it's a pleasure of the commission to get this stuff more frequently. I'll make sure I actually provide a report in advance.
Well,
in the
if
future.
If you're going to do an attaboy, you don't want to hear it a year later.
Absolutely, I understand. Absolutely.
And if somebody's going to donate, they want to. I think they should be recognized when that occurs or as close afterward. And that's why I put it on the agenda. And if there's nobody. But if there is, on a monthly deal. But I still want this commission to. It's an information item. We can't take action, but I think I'd like to have some ideas. I'll be meeting with the director and maybe Rich there. To see if we can get some ideas on how we can do award them. Letters, a little certificate you print out on a computer is it's just so easy to do now, and maybe we get a format and do it, or you can buy those things and shove them in a computer and print them out. Like when I was on the record book for awards, with trophy awards, we'd print them just like that. So I'm going to be probably bringing that up again, and I'll do it with the staff on that so we can do it. But I think we got to do it right away. A year from now, you forget. Did I give you money? I forgot about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
What does NDOW do to recognize them now? Is there any current process? I mean, you get in, check in the mail. Is there any? I mean, is it something we can piggyback on now, or is it we'd be starting a new process of recognition?
Commissioner Rich Haskins, Deputy Director. There's really no process over the years. We have recognized, we have brought groups before the commission that have been substantial partners, some of the mining companies and whatnot. We have brought them before the commission and presented plaques. I recall we have drafted some letters of appreciation and whatnot, but there is no standard.
Okay.
A lot of the groups do it just for the altruistic thing of helping wildlife, but the concept of developing something like that is certainly a good idea. So.
Basic, nothing too fancy.
John, hey, Bob.
Bob Hoyen from the Operations Division. Regarding the donation from NBU for the helicopter, in late fall, early winter, we did a news release, and the primary purpose was to thank them. And they picked that up and put that in one of their newsletters. So that doesn't address the issue of a certificate, but we definitely reached out to thank them.
Thank you. Let's go to the next item of business here, which